Hey everybody, this is Brianna Silvio. I am going to talk to you today about finding balance, navigating through overstimulation in the classroom, and then prioritizing mental health within the classroom. I've got some slides here, so we're going to go ahead and pull those up. Going to get into present mode, and we are going to get this party started. So if you are stumbling upon this in whichever capacity you are, just quick little introductions, right? Like I said, my name is Brianna. I'm a 13-year educator in the math and science space. I am a distinguished teacher here in the state of Texas, and I absolutely love teaching. I love teaching so much. I coach other teachers on how to basically stay teachers without sacrificing high quality instruction, but also protecting themselves because what we go through on a daily basis is insane. One of the biggest topics that comes up for me in coaching, whether it's on a campus, talking to administrators, talking to school leaders, or talking to teachers in the classroom, or even students for that matter, is the amount of overstimulation that we go through on a daily basis. Overstimulation is one of those situations where basically we are just so conditioned to moving so quickly and so efficiently that we feel like this is a normal thing. It's a normal way of life, right? And really though, what that does is it promotes very toxic hustle culture lifestyle because we're so quick to pivot, because we're so quick on our feet, because we are probably one of the only professions in the United States that can multitask the best. If you believe in multitasking or you don't, whether you want to call it brain coning, whether you want to call it multitasking or multifunctioning, whatever it is, whatever research you read and land in, the concept of navigating through overstimulation and coming out on the other side of that is really going to help you as an educator feel less burnt out every single day. So let's talk about overstimulation as an introductory topic. So overstimulation, when it is chronic, when it happens over and over and over again, it leads to stress, it leads to anxiety, and eventually it will lead to burnout. So reducing the sensory inputting, your sensory input is one way around it. Another way around it or through it is prioritizing your self-care. And then the third way around it is setting boundaries to manage that overstimulation. Now, you might be wondering right now, like, haha, Brianna, I'm a kindergarten teacher. I have 29 kindergartners. That's 29 5-year-olds, no para, no TA, no support. Literally all day, every day, I am in a self-contained classroom with 29 5-year-olds. How do you manage that? We're going to talk about it. A lot of it is not a black or white conversation. This is a spectrum and this is nuanced. So what I want to encourage you to do as you're listening to this training is take what works for you, leave what doesn't. You don't need to turn the table tomorrow and implement all these things, right? You know your classroom the best, you know yourself the best, and you know your students the best. There's going to be tips that I have that are just not going to work for you. Maybe your students are too young, maybe they're too old, maybe they've been through X, Y, and Z, and it's just not going to work. Whatever the case may be, I am here today to just talk about overstimulation and to remind you that there is a way through this profession sustainably, but a lot of it also is starting with a good hard look in the mirror and deciding that you are going to make big changes this upcoming school year. So symptoms of overstimulation. How do you know if you're overstimulated? So there are three main ones when it comes to overstimulation. The first one is you have difficulty concentrating or focusing in silence. So for example, I go to work every single day. Then I come home, right? And maybe before my kids get home, or maybe before my house kind of turns into the chaos that it is. If I'm sitting down and I'm watching Netflix, or I'm scrolling on social media, or I'm doing something that's kind of in the silence, if my brain is thinking about what's next, instead of concentrating and staying in the moment and holding space for the silence, that is a symptom of overstimulation. Another symptom of overstimulation is feeling overwhelmed or anxious, whether it be in silence or just on a day-to-day basis. If you find yourself running from point A and then being like, we have to go to point B, we have to go to point C, to point D, to point E. And like I said, I'm a teacher. I have 2 kids. I have 2 businesses. Like, I know what it's like to be busy, but there is a difference between being overwhelmed, anxious, and being busy. So it's really taking a good, hard, humble look in the mirror, drawing that line in the sand and saying, what actually am I? And then you also have physical symptoms. This can be headaches, this can be fatigue, and a lot of it is also digestive distress. Things like nausea, bloating, gas, etc. So educator well-being, the importance of it. As a teacher, I'm assuming you're a teacher if you're watching this, right? As a teacher, it isn't so important to prioritize your mental health and well-being by doing regular check-ins with yourself. And teacher to teacher, I want to encourage you to do this, to explore what this looks like in front of your students. Just like you teach them math, just like you teach them science, just like you teach them reading language arts, just like you teach them writing, just like you teach them social studies or history or music or art or band or orchestra or physical education or health or whatever subject you teach. Show them, be transparent, vulnerable, honest with them about what does it look like to have a moment in our class period where we just check in with how we are feeling. Normalize that vulnerable space, normalize what that looks like, what it sounds like, and what it feels like. Again, if you're like, haha, I've got 40 minutes for a class period, I see 8 class periods a day, every single millisecond counts. I get it. But if you do this work on the front end, the relational equity with your students is going to increase. The way they feel is going to be happier, more joyful. The way you feel is going to be happier, more joyful. And bet money on it that if you feel happier and students feel happier, guess who's going to learn better? Them, which is going to make your job easier. When your job is easier, you are happier. When you are happier, you create sustainable, simple habits so that you can be an educator for as long as you'd like. Avoiding overstimulation by taking breaks, practicing mindfulness, and setting boundaries with technology and work demands. This is something that we talk about in our toxic teacher hustle culture module in my rooted course and community. And as you go through that module, you're going to learn more about what that looks like. But let's just surface touch it right now since we're talking about overall overstimulation and well-being. Taking breaks. What does that look like? That looks like if you're middle school, secondary school, high school, university, that looks like, let's go to the bathroom during a passing period. Like, it does not take that long. Don't hold it. The kids will be okay. Like, go to the bathroom during a passing period. If you are a self-contained classroom in primary, elementary, or you have tight transition periods where you don't have that 3 minutes or that 5 minutes like secondary does. I do elementary, so I get that. Like, I'm in those weeds. Ask your neighbor, ask the person next to you, hey, can you step into the hallway for 2 minutes so that I can just go to the bathroom, so that I can just literally go outside, so that I can, you will be shocked with how your body acclimates and resets if you just go outside for 60 seconds, 1 minute. And once again, let your students in on this adventure. Let them see it. Let them in on this. Same thing with practicing mindfulness. Starting off your class period with a deep breathing protocol. Again, it can take anywhere from, you can deep breath in 30 seconds. And if you've got the little babies, those 5-finger breaths work so good. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. How long did that take us? Maybe about 30 seconds. And if you actually do the practice with them, you are going to feel more regulated. They are going to feel more regulated. Setting boundaries with technology. I stay off of social media as much as possible, even as a business owner, which I have to kind of really separate the two, right? Like, as a teacher coach, as a career sustainability coach, as an instructional coach that owns a business, right? And a fitness professional that owns a business, social media is marketing for me, but I have to really draw that line in the sand of when am I working and when am I wasting my time? When am I wasting precious, valuable time that I could be doing something else? But it also includes work technology as well. Are you taking your laptop home? Do you really need to grade those papers right now? Do you really need to input grades right now at 6 p.m. on a Wednesday? Or is this something that you can wait until tomorrow, maybe 15 minutes before school, maybe during your planning period, if you get a planning period, because I'm in that boat with you too, right? I'm a teacher. I get it. I'm in the weeds with y'all. Thinking about how you can set those boundaries, but also include your administration in on that conversation. I sat down with my school leadership 2 years ago and I said, listen, I am toast. I am burnt out. I am not going to make it another year if I don't start to make changes. These changes are coming. If you are not okay with these changes, please let me know so that I can start looking for another school, a better fit for the future of my career. Having those open, honest, transparent conversations with school leadership, yes, sometimes it gets ugly. And yes, sometimes the outcome is not great. But wouldn't you rather be open and honest about your expectations and your boundaries than almost trying to like hide them and then somebody wondering like, oh, I wonder why Silvio was not putting in the work that she used to, because Silvio had to be hospitalized. We have to be honest with ourselves and with others. Teacher mental health and overstimulation. Overstimulation, guys, as its roots is going to eventually lead to burnout if it hasn't already done so already. So practicing that mindfulness, those breathing techniques that we talked about, improving your mental health and taking breaks when needed. Take that 30 seconds outside. Stick your head out the window if you need to, my friend. Like if you can't leave your classroom, literally stick your head out the window, close your eyes and let the sun just be on your face, on your neck, and just breathe. If we just stopped and breathed more, I really think we would be different. Strategies for managing that overstimulation. This is going to be one of those things where, once again, it's going to be taking a good, hard, humble look. And I get that there are type A and type B teachers out there. I get it. Right? I'm a type A classroom teacher, but I'm a type B grading teacher, if you know what I mean, right? If I'm really talking to teachers, you know what I'm saying. I am a like, oh, grades are due at 11:59. You got it. You got it. But my classroom, I like less is more in my brain. And I had to come to that realization, probably say about probably about year 8 is when I started purging and I started getting rid of things where I'm like, man, I have not used these manipulatives in 3 years. They're just not relevant anymore. You and I both know that education and the needs of our students, it changes on a second by second basis. What students needed before COVID and what students need post COVID are completely different. Really look at your classroom, look at your worksheets, look at your binders, look at your manipulatives, look at your centers, look at your small group rotations, look at your Google Drive and decide, is this still relevant in the time that I have today? Now, does stuff come back and like, oh man, I really wish I had snap cubes. I got rid of all my snap cubes because we weren't using them anymore. Of course, but you have to kind of decide, can this be something that I can put in a storage and get it out of my classroom for right now? Or, put it in a cabinet or something to where visually it's more minimalistic. It's simpler. Minimizing noise and minimizing visual clutter. I'm going to bring back that kindergarten teacher that has 29 5-year-olds. How do we minimize noise, Brianna? Yeah, listen, put some soft music on. One of my favorite classroom tools that is totally free is classroomscreen.com. It has been, when I substituted in kinder, even we had a kindergarten class, bilingual class. I don't speak Spanish, so just imagine that. I speak conversational Spanish, but it's not fluent Spanish. She had 31 kindergartners. And literally I needed a nap after that day. I'm not going to lie to you. Like if you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you know that I literally bow down to kinder first and second grade teachers and pre-K. I'm upper elementary and middle school. So y'all are you deserve a stipend, a bonus. I know that I'm ranting. I digress, but either way, minimizing noise to the best of your ability. If you've got 31 5-year-olds, listen, it's not going to be perfect. It's not. but practicing that simple routine. Hey, when this song is on, when this music is on, the expectation is that we bubble it, that we've got a bubble and we are working either independently or we're working silently or we're exploring or we're doing a center or we're doing a visual. If we build the routine and we keep it consistent and the routine is simple, watch what those kids can do. Again, taking deep breaths, taking breaks, and managing stress. This is all going into your self-care bucket. It's all going in there. Prioritizing your mental health in the classroom is being able to recognize those signs of overstimulation and then putting in a verb, putting in an action to prevent it. It's one thing to be like, I'm overstimulated, but it's another thing to say, and now I'm going to. Like, how many of us are guilty for being like, I'm overwhelmed, period. I'm overstimulated, period. I'm stressed out, period. When really those periods need to be removed and we need to be putting commas. I'm overstimulated. I'm going to do a 5-round breath. I'm overwhelmed. I'm going to go outside for 60 seconds and take a mental break. I'm stressed out. I am going to take a half day on Friday. Incorporating those self-care practices such as meditation or journaling into your routine, practicing your boundaries, having those conversations with your school leaders, and also being an advocate for mental health support and resources in your school community. We all have counselors at our schools. Well, I mean, fingers crossed, we all have counselors at our school. And I know that they are overworked and overwhelmed just like everybody else in that building. Maybe come together, band together and say, I'm interested in this. How can we work together? How can we bounce back and forth? How can we create maybe a 5th grade mental health day, a 4th grade mental health day, a 6th grade, a 6th grade, 7th period mental health period? Getting creative and knowing that it's not all or nothing. Like, we can live in the gray and be successful. So again, to wrap up on this concept of overstimulation, prioritizing your self-care to preventing and managing your overstimulation, taking those breaks, practicing mindfulness, establishing boundaries with your school leaders and letting them know, and then seeking additional support. Therapy online has been one of the biggest game changers that I have had as an educator. This is my 13th year and I have been through it. And I am so grateful that I decided to be brave and bold enough to say, listen, I need extra help. This is no longer working anymore. All right. So I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to learn about the importance of educator well-being and mental health. I want us to all prioritize our self-care to create a healthier work environment together, because really and truly, guys, like, no toxic positivity here. But if you love the teaching profession and you want to stay in it another 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever, like, I'm an advocate that we weren't meant to do just one thing in our lives, but that's just a personal thing. But as I'm rounding out my 12th year, going into my 13th, like, I'm not done yet. Like, I'm still hungry for more and for reaching more students and for reaching more teachers and for supporting more. And I know it. Like, I feel like I'm not done, and I refuse to be pushed out by the system. Like, I refuse to be pushed out by the nonsense that's happening out there. But what I am going to do is I'm going to learn how to advocate for myself, and I'm going to learn how to advocate for my students. And I'm constantly going to be researching and searching for something more. And that's what you've done today by watching this. So again, my name is Brianna Silvio. You can find me on TikTok, The Rooted Teacher. You can find me on Instagram. I'm still Brianna Silvio coaching over there. I'm probably going to move everything over to The Rooted Teacher soon. And I'll see you in the next one.